Welcome to the unveiling of the number 22 seed in this deep dive series for the 2021-2022 NBA Power Rankings, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I understand, I'm higher on this team than most others. Yes, they are rebuilding. Yes, they had a horrible record last year, and they're ranked this high purely because they were a near 500 team with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a 16-19 record when he was on the court. This is going to be another year of development. Hopefully they stay healthy and hopefully they find some new pieces or their talent that they drafted develops into the players that they could potentially be, and this team looks fun to watch. Then again, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out at all, I'm done with this team. They're a bottom 5 team. But right now, they have a proven all-star caliber player that can reliably win games for your franchise at a near 500 record. That's why they're better than the Kings, the Cavaliers, the Magic, the Pistons, and the Rockets. That's why they're better than the Wizards. Bradley Beal can score, but he doesn't seem to win games. That's why they're better than the Raptors, who are in rebuild mode. And that's why they're higher ranked than the Minnesota Timberwolves, even though the Timberwolves have more talent. As for their record last season, they were 22-50. But like I said, with Shai Gilgeous on the court, they were 16 and 19th. He takes so much pressure off of every other guy on the court because he's the primary scorer. He's the primary ball handler and decision maker. And while he's not a great passer or facilitator of the offense, he's so good that he was able to elevate the team, take all the pressure off Lu Dort, Darius Baisley, Pokuszewski, whoever was playing with him. They could take a backseat. They could just play the game that they're comfortable with. And we'll talk about this later, but I'm a little worried about the Shai Gilgeous window, the championship window closing, especially if Josh Giddy turns out to be a bust as well. They're going to need to hit on at least one more all-star better player in the draft or that's currently on their roster. And almost it's like bad luck that he plays so well. But last season, they were 14th in the Western Conference, 30th in the 2020 Power Rankings, and a lot of Power Rankings and projections that I'm seeing of this upcoming season have them 30th as well. I think they're completely sleeping on the talent that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Coming in this offseason was Kemba Walker's contract. They traded for him. They traded Al Horford for him and a first, which was just another great move to steal the 16th overall selection from Boston. And then they immediately waived him because their backcourt is so packed already. And I'm a little torn on that because they're paying off his contract. I think they made some negotiation with it where they're only paying $10 million of the deal this season, or they made some negotiation where they don't have to pay the full $60 million over 2 years for Kemba. That said, they're still paying him a lot of money when they probably could have got something for him as well instead of just waiving him immediately. So they did lose Al Horford in that deal. They lost Tony Bradley, not a big loss, and they lost Moses Brown, a nice young center, 7-foot big man who showed a little potential to be a possible starter in the league. But to offset that, they did bring in Derek Favors, who is a traditional power forward, but in today's NBA, he plays the center position. Another great steal by Sam Presti to get a first-round pick from the Jazz to take on Derek Favors' contract, and he's going to be a starting center, kind of like what Al Horford did last season. They picked up Josh Giddy in the draft. Interesting pick, we'll talk about him. And they picked up Trey Mann, one of my favorite players in the entire draft class. Bringing us to their point guard ranking, and they are dead last, 30th overall in the NBA with a rookie Josh Giddy, with a second-year player, still raw and unproven in Teo Maledon, and in Ty Jerome, who's not a point guard. Now let's talk about Josh Giddy. I thought he was picked way too high. For most other analysts and myself as well, he was the first real wow pick of this draft. But just on my big board, he was my 13th ranked player. He was a tier 4 kind of player. Tier 1 was the Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green. Tier 2 was Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley. Tier 3 was Jalen Suggs, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga. And then Tier 4 was Josh Giddy. And while he's not a bad prospect by any stretch of the imagination, I think they took him way too high with the 6th overall pick. Part of the thing about the NBA is you always draft the best player available. When the Portland Trail Blazers asked Bobby Knight what they should do with their pick when they had number 2 overall and they could take a center or they could take Michael Jordan, Bobby Knight says, draft Jordan, play him at center. He's going to be the best center in the game. That's how best player available the NBA is, a little bit different than, say, the NFL. You always want to get the best player available or trade down. And I feel like the Oklahoma City Thunder did not take advantage of this 6th overall pick, either falling back a few spots and getting some more draft capital or taking the best player available at that position as well. That said, I like his passing. He was probably the second best passer in the class to Sharif Cooper. He was very much a facilitator. He would set up his teammates and definitely has size. And he even showed some 3-point range late in the season. He shot 29% from the season total, as you see in his stats, but actually for the second half of the ABL, he shot 37%, which is league average in the NBA. He's just a super pure point guard, which is exactly what they needed on their roster, which is why I have him starting despite being a rookie. And most of the time in the NBA, rookies do not start. As for my draft blog, this is what I had. He can pass, and that's it. He shot an awful 3 at the start of the year, but finished with a strong 37%. He also showed flashes of a pull-up mid-range game, but his shot form needs some tweaks. His floater game was feathery sweet, which is good because he struggles driving due to his complete lack of athleticism. His strength is passing. He's probably the second best passer in the class, dropping dimes to his teammates all over the court with near perfect touch and accuracy. He's got the gift, seeing people with the eyes in his back of his head. He can be a little overzealous, throwing full court passes that turn into turnovers. He's pass first to a fault, and if his shot ever develops, he'd like to see a little more aggression of his own. He can be sloppy and lazy with the dribble, not helped by his long 6'8" frame. His defense is possibly the worst I've ever seen. If someone he guards gets the ball, they're going to be a bucket or going to get fouled. His foot speed is non-existent, literally blown by every opportunity, and this is poor competition in Australia. Imagine Zion on him. Imagine Damian Lillard on him. He does not box out at all, and he can't when he tries. He lacks strength to do anything near the hoop. He personally gives up multiple rebounds a game to more aggressive players. He doesn't have any wingspan. He lacks any bend in his knees, which contributes to his low lateral speed. And if he isn't running the offense with the ball in his hands, he just stands around and does nothing. He's an incredibly raw prospect at his age and will benefit greatly from NBA training, but currently he has the movement of a big fat guy. He can't jump, he can't move his feet, doesn't try hard. So while I'm not a major doubter on Josh Giddy, I did have him 13th overall out of, 100 players in the draft class. I'm just not as high on him as the Oklahoma City Thunder were, and I'm waiting to be impressed by his game. Bringing us to the point guard 2, Teo Maledon, and I liked him last season. He impressed in the minutes he had and in the summer league last month. If I'm a point guard or backup point guard needy team, I'm trading for him if I was the Warriors or the Utah Jazz. And while I know he's looked at more of as a scorer, I think he's a solid playmaker himself and can run the backup point guard very well. He gets his teammates the ball and he gets his own shot as well. And just a fun little tidbit, he had the worst plus minus last season at negative 621. 144 points worse than his teammate in second place, Darius Baisley. As for Pg3 Ty Jerome, he's more of a shooting guard than a point guard. I just needed somebody to fill the picture here. He's fine, put up 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 42% from the field. I was actually completely surprised that last year was only his second season. I feel like I've been seeing him bounce around rosters a lot longer than 2 years, but he's good depth on your team. Bringing us to the wing positions, and I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the number 8th ranked shooting guard in the NBA. The dude is good. I don't know yet how high we want to rate a guy who is still unproven. Sports media loves hyping guys and saying, what if this, what if that? This guy has the potential to be that. And that's what Shai Gilgeous is right now. He had an all-star caliber last season. I get that, but it was only 35 games and I still want to see more. And people were saying, oh my God, this kid is better than LeBron James. I would never trade him in the 6th overall pick for Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green. And, I definitely consider that. He's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't have any blow-by speed. And, of course, that means nothing in today's Cade Cunningham, Luka Doncic NBA. But his lack of athleticism does hold him back. He's a very long player, silky smooth dribbler and finisher. He slithers around defenders like a snake, wiggling around them and putting up crazy contested layups that go in because he has great touch. He has some issues creating his own shot on good-ish defenders because he lacks that elite athleticism. I saw him really struggle in the clutch, throwing up awkward contested floaters or driving hard into the body of the defender, jumping up and then throwing a desperation pass out to the three-point line just because he wasn't able to get by his man. He also has a slow shot from 3, but he has long strides and can make a step back 3 work, which is helped by the fact that he shot over 41% from the three-point line last season. He's a good-ish playmaker, not primary point guard good enough, but a little D'Angelo Russell-ish. He'll make a few good passes, but he doesn't always read the court very well. And he's really good at drawing fouls when he drives and creates contact. He is a little lazy on defense this last season, which was a little surprising because his calling card getting drafted was defense. But it's fine since he handled the primary scoring load for the team. It was just something to take notice of. One thing I haven't seen yet from him, he's basically shown me everything else that I need to see, but I haven't seen him come up in the clutch. I saw him miss an open 3. I saw him choke 3 out of 4 clutch free throws, but I never saw him take over the game in the 4th quarter, say, I'm going to wheel this team to victory and make the final bucket. Bringing us to the greatest player in the NBA, Alexi Pokuszewski. What a fucking ridiculous guy. Ranked 27th right now. He was super raw. He's all potential. It's ridiculous that this dude is 7 feet tall, and he hasn't quite leaned into it with the way he plays the game. Honestly, on the court, he plays like he's 6'4", but I do see a possible Kevin Durant-ish future game for him. He's tall enough, and he can shoot to some extent. He has nice touch. He just has a low release that isn't going to become an unstoppable move like Kevin Durant's is. But he's a very nice passer, especially for his size. He just made a ton of rookie mistakes last season. He was out of position frequently, misran the fast break, traveled, have his foot out of bounds, just do those rookie things that you expect to get cleaned up in the following few years. but this dude is just crazy potential. He and Darius Baisley both have so much natural talent that you just want to see them grow into the maximum potential of a player they can be. Which brings us to Darius Baisley, who was the most frustrating player to watch on this team. One play, he'll make one incredible, insane, how did he do that kind of play, and then the very next one, he'll turn around and make an idiotic turnover, spinning out of control, throwing the ball away to the other team and making just a dumb decision. He's a very nice handle for his size, but this year is going to be a little bit of a prove-it year going into year 3. We're going to need some efficiency from him. The roster is starting to get crowded at the power forward position with Pokuszewski, with Isaiah Roby, and with Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So can he be more efficient? Can he make his shots? He only shot 29% from the three-point line last season, which was a major hindrance on this team. And while watching some other people analyze this roster, they kept saying, Darius Baisley needs to get more efficient. Darius Baisley needs to get more efficient. And that's just code for Darius Baisley needs to stop sucking at shooting. He's just struggled. He would clang so many shots from the three-point line. He'd miss so many open layups. And he has the talent to be very good in the NBA. He just needs to hone his craft. Bringing us to the center position, and like I said, they're going to come in at 29th. It's not a very good center squad. They're kind of lacking an actual starting center at this point, playing Derek Favors, I assume, or God forbid Mike Muscala, or even God forbid Isaiah Roby, who's not even a center. That's why I was a little surprised when they traded away Moses Brown and Al Horford in the same deal with Boston, which then Boston went and traded away Moses Brown to, I think, Dallas now. But at the starting center position, I do have Derek Favors. And it's surprising that he's only 29. I feel like he's aged out. He only played 15 minutes a night for the Jazz last season, and he can't shoot the three. He doesn't defend like Rudy Gobert. He doesn't have an offensive game like Nikola Jokic. So he's kind of just losing a position in this new modern NBA. We just don't need Karl Malone-like power forwards anymore. That said, he's still a decent player and can provide some leadership to this team, grab rebounds, and clog up the paint. Bringing us to the center 2 position, Mike Muscala. And I didn't know he was still in the league, but yet here he is making three-pointers for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He shoots the three well at 37% last year and a career 36.8% three-point shooter. He just has the slowest feet in the history of basketball. I've never seen a guy who's unable to move his feet laterally from the perimeter so poorly, which is going to go great alongside Josh Giddy, who can't do that as well. He just stinks. All he does is shoot the damn three-pointer, but he does it well enough to where he's still on an NBA roster, earning millions of dollars, which is more than I can ever say. Also on the team is Isaiah Roby. Like I said before, not a center, but was forced into the center position because they were lacking a center player at all until Moses Brown showed up about halfway through the season. He's been a little disappointing in his career with his growth, or I guess lack thereof. He also suffers from the Darius Baisley problem of he misses a lot of open layups. He doesn't shoot a great three-point percentage. And while he's a lot of energy like Darius Baisley is, you're going to need the skill to pair alongside your energy so that you can stay on a roster. You're going to need to start shooting better or be an elite defender or offer something like Draymond Green with playmaking and undersized defense. Rudy Gobert is barely on a starting team, and he's a defensive player of the year like 20 years running in a row. And if you can't bring what Rudy Gobert does, how do you expect to be on the team when you can't shoot as well? So Darius Baisley, Alexi Pokuszewski, Isaiah Roby all just need to shoot better. Bringing us to their bench ranking, and one of everybody's favorite players in the league, Lu Dort. He's a legit 3-and-D guy who could be a starter on this team and honestly almost any other team in the league. I would have started him in this roster, but the lack of size that he has makes it such a mismatch that it's problematic, and he's probably going to be a spot starter. If this team has a bunch of short players, he'll be able to go out and defend their best guy as well. If this team is tall, he's going to have to come off the bench. He's very short, very compact, and a very strong guy. He will always guard the other team's best guard player, which is invaluable in the NBA when you're playing a very guard-strong team. He'll guard Steph Curry, he'll guard Damian Lillard. Being able to stay in front of the other NBA talents like Russell Westbrook was incredible to watch. And while he only shot 34% from the three-point line last season, I did see him make a game-winning three-point shot. So that's really all you can ask for from a guy who's 3-and-D. He gets a little out of control when driving the ball or being asked to playmate too much, and he obviously struggles finishing in the trees because he's only 6'3". That said, super likable guy. Don't think anybody has a negative thing to say about Lu Dort. He is just a fun player to watch, a fun player to have on your team. Moving on to Tre Mann, who is legit. I loved his game in Florida. I was super high on him. A lot of mock drafts had him in the mid to late 20s, and I have him as the number 14 prospect, a late lottery guy that they picked up at 18. My blurb for him is Tre has pure swagger to his game. He's not very fast, not very big, not very long, but when the ball is in his hands, good things happen. He had an awful freshman year and then worked his ass off to get bigger and, more importantly, shooting at an elite percentage. He added a mean step-back jumper to his game and was making dribble pull-up shots that translate well to the next level, and he even has a floater game. He still has some issues getting his own shot on bigger defenders because of his lack of athletics, and only has a small bag to get by defenders, and he's prone to the occasional bad pass. He still makes very good reads and was one of the best initiators of the offense and the sole weapons of Florida once Keontae Johnson went down. He can shoot from the logo and absolutely heats up from three, but I did see a lot of mental mistakes and clutch moments that were worrying in the 2020 season. Defensively, he wasn't a liability per se, but it was definitely one of his weaker points. He's either too slow rotating around or would make the wrong rotation or just wouldn't rotate at all. His foot speed was okay, but often he just completely give up on drives and offer little resistance to aggressive players. He can rebound when he wants to. Actually, Trey was all about offense and is a complete stud scoring, and my favorite of the short unathletic scorers of the class with Cam Thomas, Jaden Springer, Jared Butler, Joshua Primo. I'm just not sure how he's going to find minutes in the Oklahoma City Thunder crowded backcourt. Still here is Kenrich Williams. He was the best shooter of Oklahoma City last season, which was kind of bizarre. Here are his stats from three-point line. Rookie season, he shot 33%. Sophomore season, 26%. Last year, 44% from the three-point line. Wow. And then his free throw percentages, which is a good teller of how good the shooter is going to be, because if you're good at shooting free throws, you have a reliable and repeatable stroke. His rookie year, 68%. Not terrible. LeBron James kind of shoots that. Sophomore year, 34% from the free throw line. And then last season, 57% from the free throw line. So he's in this weird spot where we don't know if he's going to be a good shooter or not. He was good last season, which is enough to earn him a roster spot, but we need to continue to see that this upcoming season because he is lacking in the athleticism department. Taken in the second round was Jeremiah Robinson Earl from Villanova. I think a lot of people just like him because his name is so long, they can shorten him to JRE. He was a fundamentally solid 4. He kind of reminds you of David West. Big kid, 240 pounds and a legit mid-range jumper. He's a good, smart defender, but he lacks freak athleticism. He was able to guard 1 through 5 and switches on college players. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be that successful in the NBA where everybody is faster and more athletic, but he did show the capacity at the college level. He's a high effort, high intelligence player, but he lacks the true NBA talent and will need to grind to earn out a spot. Which brings us to Gabriel Deck and Charlie Brown Jr. There's only one more roster spot on this Oklahoma City Thunder bench, and they're going to have to fight for that final spot. Honestly, with either player, I wasn't really impressed with what I saw. I guess I like Charlie Brown Jr. better because he has nicer hair, but then Gabriel Deck has cool tattoos. Neither of them are very good depth, and they're probably not going to see very many minutes on the court. They signed Vít Krejci to a 4-year deal or a 3-year deal earlier this month. He was one of the draft and stash players in the second round draft last season. He's recovering from an ACL injury and is expected to heal up and going to play in the G League this upcoming year. Don't know much about him, but looking forward to see what he does down there. Also on two-way contracts are Josh Hall and Aaron Wiggins. Bringing us to the coach and culture rank for the Oklahoma City Thunder. No surprise, they're going to rank very highly at 7th. I'm still unsure on the coach, otherwise I'd probably be a little bit higher. And a COVID year with no practice and a rushed offseason, it's very hard to implement your culture and system to the team. Also, the team was tanking, so how much are we really going to grade an NBA head coach on a team that's trying to lose? Just from the games I watched, it was impressive to see the team fly around on defense and try very hard despite their horrible record, which was a testament to the head coach at least getting his players to believe in the message and believe in the future of the team. We're going to have to see next season how good he really is as a head coach. And of course, boosting this rank even higher is the GM Sam Presti, who is legit. He's frequently getting the better end of trades. Just look at the Al Horford Kemba Walker swap where he stole a first and agreeably got the better player. Now, this is just a bit of a nitpick, but that's a little bit of what we do in these deep dive series. I'm not sure on his vision and how successful it's going to be. Clearly, since Paul George asked out in 2019, they have been in rebuild mode. And then they traded for the remains of Chris Paul, who then all of a sudden became an all-NBA, carry your team to the playoffs caliber player, and basically wrecked their first tanking year. Then this year, they hit some bad luck, fell to the number 6 overall pick, missed out on the Rockets pick, and then in most people's eyes, reached for a player that's not as good as some of the others that were available. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to make this team a near 500 team, a late lottery pick, maybe play for the play-in seed, and unless they beat the odds or make some crazy trade, they're going to miss out on the top 3 talent in the draft this upcoming year again. And I'm worried they're going to end up in purgatory because SGA is such an elite player, but he's the only one they have. Their pick isn't going to be high enough to draft a stud, and a lot of the lottery protections they have hinder their team. The only guys I have complete confidence in and being an NBA player is Shai Gilgeous and Lou Dort. And I'm just not sure how I feel about this team not being able to draft a top 3 player or have a top 3 pick, as well as I don't believe in Josh Giddy. Let's just look at the draft picks that they have right now. They got number 6 overall, took Josh Giddy. They had number 16 overall, which Houston traded for Alperen Sengun. Then they have number 18 overall, which they took Trey Mann, took Jeremiah Robinson Earl in the second round, and then 2 others that aren't really important. Next season, they're going to have the Clippers unprotected pick, which isn't going to be that great. I believe the Clippers are going to be a very solid playoff team. Maybe Kawhi comes back and they make a run in the playoffs. They have the Suns pick, top 12 protected. And then in 2023 will be top 10 protected. And in 2024 will be top 8 protected, or will become unprotected in 2025. And the way the Suns played this last season, it's going to be a late first round pick. They have the Pistons first round pick next season, but it's top 16 protected, top 18 protected, top 13 protected. Basically, with all these protections, it's not going to be a top 10 pick. And if they don't get it by the year 2027, it gets converted into a second round pick. Then in 2023, they have their own pick. They have the right to swap their pick with the Clippers, which of course the Clippers are still probably going to be pretty good. They have the Nuggets first round pick, but it's top 14 protected. If they don't get it, it's top 14 protected again. And then it converts into 2 second rounders after that. So it's probably going to be another late round, non-lottery first round pick. Then they have the Heat first round pick in 2023, and it doesn't tell me the protections on it, but I assume that it's going to be at least top 10 protected, and they're not going to get that. They have the Wizards first round pick. Again, top 14 protected, top 12, top 10, and top 8 protected before converting into a second round pick. So at the end of the day, all these picks are not going to be top 10 picks. Then in 2024, they have their own pick. Then they have the Rockets pick again, top 4 protected. I expect the Rockets with Jalen Green to be at least decent. And then they have the Clippers unprotected pick. Maybe that's going to be good, but we're already in 2024. That's another 4 years of tanking. At this point, if the Thunder haven't turned their talent into championship competing teams, then they're going to have to trade away Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and start the rebuild over again. So I don't want to say I'm doubting in Sam Presti. I am a believer in the things that he's doing. I just don't think that it's going to work out for them on the timeline that they're hoping for, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is so good for their team. Talking about the season projections, they're projected only to win 22.5 games this season. And they win 22 games last season. And that's what I'm saying is they went 16-19 with the healthy Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Let everybody else be comfortable and fall into the role, fall into a second, third, fourth option. And him playing at an all-star level really made everybody else more comfortable. And if he's healthy for this entire upcoming season, they're at least a 30-35 win team, gonna break these season projections. Championship odds are the worst by all bettors. Everybody is sleeping on the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think. They have them at the worst, 500-1. Everyone thinks they're going to be a 15th seed, get the number 1 overall pick, and take a Chet Holmgren, Paulo Blanchero generational talent. And I just don't see it. I see them as a team that's fighting for the playing spot. Going to be a little bit like the Charlotte Hornets were this year, where they have a lot of young players on their team. They're going to continue to develop. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be incredible for them, and they're going to be fighting for a 500 record, which is going to be great for the team and great for morale, but it's going to completely ruin their idea of tanking for the number 1 overall pick. So that is the breakdown of the Oklahoma City Thunder, number 22 overall in my power rankings. Let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one where we unveil the 21st team in these power rankings.